Hey everybody, Dylan Distraction here, coming to you live from Batlantic Studios. Thought I'd do a quick back to the drawing board, talk about comic book shows on my drawing table, and continue working on this Nuke Force drawing. Thank you so much for liking, subscribing, thumbs up, commenting, sharing. So this is the one I'm currently working on. These are a couple I've done previously, which will be the covers for Nuke Force issue 1, coming to Kickstarter very soon. So this is a drawing I did. This is Major Grit. And then this is Major Grit, Claudia, Pump Station, Mr. Malto, Nuke Force. Thrilled to be able to have this comic book ready to go. Thank you so much to everybody for going to Make Comics Cool, supporting my work. DylanDistraction.com, DylanAndrewsArt.com, Batlantic Store, Batlantic Studios. I got a bunch planned for 2025. Can't believe it's already 2025. A lot of things I want to accomplish, a lot of work I want to do. And really, I'm hoping that with your continued support, I'll be able to make comics for you forever. So it's been a lot of fun making comics. 10 years. I was just looking at it today, and it's like 2015. And then started really, I've been in publishing obviously for decades, but doing comic books, really trying to give that a big push and make that part of my life since 2015. And so appreciative and so happy and so thrilled to be able to draw and create, design, teach. I love it. So thank you so much to everybody that's continued to support my work. It means the world to me. Incredibly appreciative. And hopefully I'll be able to continue doing this forever. I'm gonna draw comics for as long as I can until I can't do it anymore. The thing is, I say to people often, it's a more physically demanding way to spend your days than people realize. I think you see comic book artists and creators, and it's a very sedentary and secluded way to work, but it's incredibly rewarding to be able to be creative. So oftentimes it's like you see creators that are just physically not able to continue because they just don't have the dexterity in their hands, or their back goes, or they have problems with their health because you just are sitting and drawing, and it's difficult. It's physically demanding, and over time it can really wear you down. So obviously I do everything I can to try to mitigate that and to try to be as healthy as possible under the circumstances. But I always say to my students, make sure you're in a comfortable seated position. Don't be too hunched over. Don't be too reclined back. Do some gentle hand stretching. Take care of your eyes, your back, your wrists. I got a bad back, bad hand, bad wrists, and it's just because it just grinds on you. Drawing digitally burns my eyes real bad. Drawing traditionally ends up, hurting your hands and your joints. It's just how it is. I don't know if there's a solution. I think it's just try to take breaks, try to be healthy. Don't let comics break you. Stay strong. That's my advice. Not that you need my advice or want my advice. You didn't ask for my advice, but you got my advice. So do what you can to try to take care of yourself, because it's a marathon and a sprint. So I've definitely been working consistently on Nuke Force and really had a great time creating these characters and drawing stories for them. And I wanted it to be a retro futuristic sort of comic book where, imagine if, because I love classic comics and I've been reading a lot of old Captain Marvel, Shazam, C.C. Beck Fawcett stuff, and Siegel and Schuster Superman, and classic old-timey Bob Kane, Bill Finger Batman. And you see these 40s, 50s comics, and then into the 60s, and you're like, oh man, what a cool era. What fun stuff was made during that time. I just love that stuff. And so I was like, well, what if a comic book was created in 1945 to look, what would they envision 2025 would look like? How would they, what would the characters look like? What would the world look like? And so that was the thinking behind working on this Nuke Force. Was it's like, all right, a comic book from 1945 about 2025 and this war, this World War II. What about if that just never ended? What about if World War II just kind of kept going with different threats and different villains? And what would that look like? And so that was the idea behind Nuke Force. And I love science-based heroes. So a lot of characters in the 40s, 50s, 60s, they were given their abilities through science. I mean, Fantastic Four, Iron Man, the Hulk. This idea that, well, science, Captain America, would be able to give you superhuman qualities. The other way to get abilities was through magic, like Captain Marvel. And another way was through, again, I'd say even Superman's through science. Batman's kind of through science too, if you think about his, his ability to use gadgets or technology. Not granted abilities, but definitely granted enhanced techniques. So that was the thinking behind Nuke Force, nuclear powered heroes. What would that look like? How would they fight for our country? Because a lot of that stuff back then was very patriotic. So I'm like, well, that's kind of cool. Maybe you do something like that where they're fighting for America. It's different, I mean, that's not something you see as much anymore. So I was like, well, maybe that's kind of a fun way to have it feel classic and yet still, obviously that's a bit old-fashioned, but I like that sort of aesthetic. So I was going for that. So they fight for America, but not against other countries, against an evil threat that is not attached to a nation. So it's not like they're fighting against Russia or Germany or whatever. It's that they're fighting against kind of this terrorist group that's not beholden to a country. And actually, in issue 2, you'll see where their country is, where their base of operations is. Spoiler alert. Different reality. So this is kind of that idea for the second issue. The cover, the big bad, the character they have to go up against, kind of featuring the characters here. And man, drawing traditionally, I forget how long everything takes. It's like drawing digitally, I could just drop this in and be like, oh, it's all black, boop, drop it in. It's like, nope. If you're drawing it traditionally, you gotta just fill all this in. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just fill all this in and talk while I do it. It's like chewing gum and drawing at the same time. And the reason why I have these other illustrations out is because I'm trying to make sure I keep the character on model as much as I can. I'm not super strict about that, obviously, because I don't have to be. The color scheme, their silhouettes, that really helps to sell the fact that they are who they are. So once these are all digitally colored, it pretty clearly the characters jump off because they're all different base colors. He's yellow, she's green, he's red, and he's blue. So you're like, oh, that's that guy. And their silhouettes are vastly different. So it's pretty obvious pretty quickly which one is which. Shouldn't be any confusion about that. But I do like to just kind of have these out so I go, oh yeah, that's the kind of line making I'm doing. You're on the right track. you're in the ballpark. If this one looked or felt completely different than these two, I'd be like, am I using the wrong pen? Am I using the wrong, what's going on? So with these, I'm using these Tombos, which I really like. You can get these in, these are a 2-pack. One's kind of a greenish gray, and then one's kind of a bluish, darker bluish. So I like these quite a bit. The bluer ones are firmer, stiffer, and the grayish green one is looser. Not drastically, like you could throw a pretty similar line. The thing I do notice about these is that the line frays quite a bit. So this does feel lighter gray than these. These feel darker. Not sure why. I think it's all the same paper. Yeah, it should be the same paper, so I'm not sure why this ink is looking grayer, but it is. Maybe it's the temperature. It's definitely colder when I'm drawing this one than the other two, so possibly it has to do with temperature. But I don't know. So just gonna fill all this black in, and then that'll really help to make this all kind of pop. It'll make more sense visually once it's all blacked in. Things will kind of recede into the background and pop into the foreground. And then if I need to, I can go back in with my Posca white pen, paint markers, and do any sort of corrections I might need to do. But the hope is, if I plan it all out pretty well in the blue lines, and then ink it, pretty consistently, really trying to stay focused or stay consistent with my inking, where I don't get too loose. I want it to be kind of loose. I don't like when things are inked so tightly that they look boring. But then I won't have much I have to correct, hopefully, but whatever. Like I've said before, this doesn't have to be for anything. Just me talking and shooting YouTube with it, like, that's good enough. If that is all this is, that's fine. If it never sees print, that's fine. Nobody's paying me to do this. There's no deadline. There's no one waiting for this. I'm not stressed out about, oh, this has to go out the door tomorrow. It doesn't have to ever go out the door. I don't ever have to print this at all if I don't want to. So just being able to kind of have that sort of freedom of exploration and enjoyment of the process is fulfilling for me. And if this drawing does go off the rails and I have to patch it or I have to toss it, that's fine. I do that. And some people might be surprised to hear that, but I could even show you. Like, I have an illustration up here that I did that's no one has ever seen. Let me just grab it up in my. So this is an illustration I did of a sequence with Major Grit, and this was purely for practice. There was never an intent to show this, and I'm not even going to show all of it because it's got some spoilers. But you can see here, it's just me trying different pens, trying different pencils, and just having fun with it. Unsuccessfully. And is now just a piece of scrap paper. So I think it's important, and the reason why I share that or show that is that you don't have to be precious with it. Not everything is going to be the greatest illustration ever. And even if you just practice or learn or have fun with the process of creating, that's valuable. There's value in that. And so I think, again, talking about AI, that process, a few hours of drawing that page and then never intending to show it to anyone, it's essentially just like a sketchbook page at that point. And instead of it being a sketchbook page, it was a full 11 by 17 piece of Bristol. Because again, why be precious with the paper? It doesn't matter. I got reams of paper. I have massive amounts of paper. I buy a pad of paper every time I go to the craft store or go online. The kind of paper I'm currently using, again, people sometimes are interested in the supplies. So this is the kind of paper I'm using, 11 by 17 Bristol Smooth. I like this paper. I think it holds up pretty well. It's a little yellow, which I don't hate compared to other papers I've had, but this works well. It's a 300 series, Strathmore Bristol, Smooth Bristol, 24 sheets, 11 by 17. Recommended for sequential art professionals, award-winning artists. Les professionnels. So that paper I like quite a bit. And again, yesterday I showed this book. If you're like, what is he going for? He's going for this. What am I trying to capture? I'm looking at John Romita. I'm looking at who inks him. See that sort of stuff? That brushwork there, right? I like that. I like the feel of that. I like how they have really strict panels. I like how it's a lot of squares. 1, 2, 3, 4 pages. 4 squares, pardon. 4 panels. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, I like the look of this. I have this next to my desk so I can go, oh yeah, that's cool. Look at that shadow on that face. Like, that's awesome. That shadow on that face, it's awesome. That really, it's brave to be able to really put a figure's face in that much shadow. It requires a lot of, it's deceptively simple. It's deceptively easy to do this stuff, but John Romita and his inkers really excelled at making the exceptional look easy. Love that. Great goblin. So good. So that's kind of stuff. And this is a great book. Love it. So that's the kind of stuff I'm looking at. Now again, here I'm looking at the other illustrations I've done, and I'm like, oh, maybe if I do a little bit of this, throw a couple of those lines in, throw a couple of those lines in, a couple of little dashes there. Don't run your arm through it. Right, a couple of that. This one's going good. Don't overwork it. Fill all this in with black. And when inking, I will often turn the page to make sure that my hand is comfortable and I'm pushing and pulling and throwing lines at a comfortable angle. Like these. So I usually try to take these videos to 20 minutes, but please, in the comments below, let me know, like, subscribe, share, and comment how long you think these videos should be. I'd be interested to hear. Do you like seeing the process? Do you want to know more about the tools or the supplies? Happy to share anything people want to know more about, but yeah, I don't know what people are interested in seeing. I know what I like on YouTube and the kind of stuff I really enjoy. I'm loving watching David Finch. Obviously, the guy is a master of the art form and has a real solid technique down. So I'm not trying to do what he's doing. Definitely, I don't draw like that. He's, professional illustrator, been drawing for 100 years, so he knows a lot more and has definitely got a different skill set than what I'm doing. But I do love that sort of content, just people drawing and watching them draw. And so that's the kind of stuff have been providing and will continue to provide. That's really, I don't offer a lot of insight or commentary on current events because I don't know what's going on. So if you're looking for someone that can be like, I'd really love more hot takes. It's like, oh, I don't know anything about hot takes. I know about hot toys. I don't even have any of those, but I don't have hot takes. So if you're hoping for hot takes or current events, I don't know. I hope everyone's doing great. I hope everyone's doing well and making stuff that they're excited about. That's kind of my hot take. I know that's not great for the algorithm. I know people often do better when they have really controversial topics with really controversial thumbnails. I don't do that. It doesn't interest me. It's not the kind of stuff I enjoy. Or if I do enjoy it, it's not the kind of stuff I do. So I don't mind watching stuff with hot takes and people ranting about things, but it gets boring. It's like a lot of complaining a lot of the time. I prefer watching people be creative, like David Finch or like Daniel Warren Johnson. Those guys, the creators whose YouTube channels and whose work I like. So I like seeing Daniel Warren Johnson. Like, how does he lay out a page? That's the thing I think is a bummer about David Finch, is it's just pinups. Not that it's just pinups, but it's only pinups. And the dude is so good at laying out pages and doing sequentials. It's like, Mr. Finch, please. But we get it. You crush pinups. Like, you do pinups all day. And they're great. But Daniel Warren Johnson's doing pages. Like, Daniel Warren Johnson, he's going to have a comic book at the end of this. And then a graphic novel like Extremity was great. I love that book. I just got the hardcover. I'll probably show that off on the next video. That stuff's so good. So definitely check out that book. But Finch is doing pinups, and I'd love it if he just did sequentials, or at least just. And I think probably the reason why you wouldn't is because sequentials, it's time consuming, right? Like I could, like, and you never know. Like that sequential page I did over there, I just showed you, it didn't go well, and I ditched it. It's just a learning piece, and for him, who is a creative, professional illustrator, comic book artist, he doesn't really have the time to be, oh, I'm just gonna stumble through a sequential page and we'll see how it goes. It's like he's got to really focus and hit it out of the park, because if he is working on a sequential page, it's most likely for someone else, unless he's doing it for his own projects, but I assume it's for someone else. And I don't know if people are as excited about seeing that stuff. Like, would people rather tune in to see a pinup of Batman, or him struggling to get a panel of two people talking? I think probably the pinup of Batman draws more viewers, but I don't know. I'd like to see him draw panels. I think it's fun to see people struggle through drawing panels. I'll do it on this. If people are like, I want to watch Nuke Force be drawn traditionally, I want to see you soup to nuts do a page. Okay, maybe that's the next video. I don't know. Maybe the next series of videos is me showing you how I would fight through a sequential page. I could just do like a one-shot, like a one-and-done page. That'd be kind of cool. But I don't know if that's what people want to see. Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments. So the thing I will say too is, if it's kind of cold where I'm working right now out in the dungeon, and at Batlantic Studios, the ink's not going to dry as quickly. You'll notice that it kind of hangs out on the page. It's not going to absorb in as fast. So you do have to be a little more cautious about running your hand through it. Although I just watched again Daniel Warren Johnson the other day. He's drawn. He's like just smeared. And he's like, oh, that's a rookie mistake. Happens to the best of us. I think watching people ink is fun. Like watching people pencil. It's fun. I enjoy seeing it. But watching the high wire act of people trying to ink is always kind of a thrill. Because there's so much, it's just a different sort of process. It's a little bit, not that it's permanent, but it's a bit more permanent. So, all right, what else am I going to do? I think the background will all be purple. And again, that's why I'm leaving a lot of open space. You'll see in these other ones, I didn't black in the backgrounds. I just kind of let the figures float, because I know this will be in color: purple, 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 green and gray, yellow, green, red. And so I know that going into it, I don't have to fill everything. It doesn't have to be 60-40, 70-30, black and white, white and black. It can be more 50-50, because I know the color will, the color's gonna give it a lot more depth. So there's pump stations, pump arm, and then this, like that, and a couple of loopy doopies there. So thank you so much for watching. Dylan Andrews Art. DylanDistraction.com. Make Comics Cool. I'd love to have people sign up at Make Comics Cool. It really would be awesome if you're watching this and you're like, I don't know, how can I get one of these comics? Or how can I support Dylan and his work? MakeComicsCool.com. That's my Patreon. Check that out. Jump in. Bunch of great reward levels. So definitely check that out. Batlantic store. And the crowdfunding campaign for Nuke Force is coming soon. I will be sharing it here on YouTube and on Instagram and on Facebook and all those platforms. I don't know what platforms you're on. I don't know. I don't know if anybody even sees my stuff on any of those platforms anymore. I don't know if anybody's on platforms. We're still doing social media. Is that still a thing? I don't know. I don't go on it as much anymore. I don't really care about it. But I think you have to. Or at least I feel like I have to. I don't know if you do, but maybe you do. So go to DylanDistraction.com, Make Comics Cool, Batlantic Store, Batlantic Studios, Dylan Andrews Art. And see you in the next video. Nuke Force. Okay, thanks. Bye.